in South Ossetia, that he should be held accountable for the aggression against South Ossetia. And the best thing he could do right now is to unconditionally, I repeat, unconditionally withdraw his troops and sign a legally binding agreement with Ossetians on non-use of force.
All right, Mr. President, do you want to respond?
Well, I mean, sounds quite Orwellian to me, and a little bit like old times, which I still remember. I was the youngest president of the world when I got elected, but I still remember old times, and I still remember Brezhnev's times. But the point here is the following: we are talking about country, about place just in the middle of Georgia, in the middle of my country. How can I invade the middle of my country? It's the contradiction in terms. And what we are talking about is, we control most of this area always, but there is a small area directly administered and run by the Russians. And when they talk about South Ossetian separatists and say South Ossetian tank, what kind of South Ossetian tank can live there? It is a Russian tank. What kind of South Ossetian soldiers are there? These are soldiers in the service of the Russian army, trained by them, equipped by them, very well armed by them. So what we are saying right now is that this place needs to get rid of this military thing. They need to be cleaned of all this, all the violence. And this place needs to get back.
Are you ready, Mr. President, to go back to? Are you ready to go back to the status quo ante? What existed last week when there were Russian peacekeepers in that area before the situation escalated?
There were Russian peacekeepers and there were Georgian peacekeepers, and certainly we are willing to go to status quo ante, but certainly this mass intrusion of troops should stop. Troops should withdraw from the sovereign Georgian territory, and we should do our best to just demilitarize areas and protect the civilians. The point here is that we have the population here that is under our control is ethnically Georgian, but also mixed because we are a multi-ethnic country. There is this town of Tskinvali that was under control of the Russian peacekeepers, and that's fine. So far as we should do our best not to allow resumption of criminal activities and shooting at people, smuggling, all kind of illicit things, and that has been happening. And Russians have always been agreed with us that there was a problem. The point here is that it got to the point when it's just a matter of not anymore respecting the borders, and the borders on the Caucasus are built very high. These are very, very high mountains, and we have such a natural boundary that can hardly be overcome even by fast-flying Russian jets.
But, Mr. President, do you honestly believe that Georgia's relatively modest military can compete with a superpower like Russia?
Well, I mean, I would be crazy to believe that. But we are a free, small, freedom-loving nation, and certainly, freedom is not about size. Freedom is about ability to, stand up for your ideals, even if it comes at sacrifice of your life. Certainly, freedom is about living normal lives and not killing or getting killed. But I mean, it's a very unfortunate circumstances, and I regret loss of life on both sides. But the point here is, our troops have been performing very well, but now we really absolutely need to halt these hostilities because it's killing people, and it's killing much more civilians than it can ever kill the troops. The planes that are flying over, Georgian troops shot down almost 20 of them, but because they're equipped, they have the air defenses. But civilians in the ground, on the roads, in a crowded cafes, at their apartments where they got killed when the whole residential area was destroyed, they are not equipped with air defenses, and we cannot supply them with air defenses. So the point here is that it's exactly doing that. So it's not about troops performing or not performing. It's right now a huge human tragedy on the ground, and we absolutely need to stop.
The Russians say that your troops have killed some 2,000 people in Ossetia, among other places. Do you have any estimates as far as how many people have been killed and injured so far over the course of these few days of warfare that's been going on?
Well, let's put it this way. The town of Tskinvali, by the moment when Georgian troops entered it, didn't even have that much number of people. It's a very, very small town, and prior to the fighting, anticipating the fighting, local Russian authorities evacuated most of the population. And we didn't anticipate fighting. Apparently they did, and we only responded when after many hours of artillery barrage, after unilateral ceasefire declared by us, people, by the way, because we wouldn't respond on our side. Then when I heard around 11:30 or 11:50 p.m. that 150 Russian tanks are entering our sovereign territory from this place, there is a very long mountainous tunnel, called the Rocky Tunnel, into the Georgian territory. Our forces were stationed somewhere here, so when they got entered, the only way we could get them is to respond with artillery fire to stop mass land invasion of the sort that happened to Afghanistan and Czechoslovakia in 1968. Now,
let me interrupt for a second, Mr. President.
Of course, there were. Yeah.
A quick question about American citizens. I take it some of them are being removed. There's a corridor that they're getting out right now. About 2,000 U.S. citizens live in Georgia. Is that right?
Well, one has to say that America is very highly regarded in Georgia. By the way, that's maybe one of the reasons why we've been attacked. One of the bombs, one of the unexploded bombs found on a shot down Russian plane yesterday, tragicomically said, "This is for Americans, this is for NATO," in Russian, and it didn't explode. But of course, as much as we love Americans here, nobody is safe right now, and that's, I deeply regret to say that. And the point here is that today, 2 journalists from the West, one Georgian and one Polish, were killed in Tskinvali by the fire of entering troops from Russia.
Mr. President,
this is very unfortunate. I want to express my deep condolences to these families, and please, we should hold this violence, hold this madness.
All right, Mr. President, unfortunately, we have to leave it right there, but we'll stay in close touch with you, the President of the Republic of Georgia, Mikhail Saakashvili, joining us live from Tbilisi. Thanks very much. That's
so
it
much,
for today's late edition. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. Fareed Zakaria, GPS starts in just a moment. First, let's go to CNN's Frederica Whitfield for more on what's going on this breaking news. Fred?